Welcome. You're listening to the Leading Hope Podcast. My name is VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day to become a better leader. If you're new, we release a new episode every Wednesday. Every Wednesday. Do you know what day it's on? It's Wednesday. The easiest way to remember every week is to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Also, share this with a friend on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And please rate and review or both on Apple Podcasts. You won't believe how that helps get this in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us every week. And visit leadinghope.online, get updates, and find out more about the Leading Hope community. Kevin, today you have titled 232, episode
232.
In the 232. That sounds like
sponsored by the Full Focus Planner.
The Full Focus Planner, a daily
planner.
There you go. You've titled this "The Missing Link in How People Buy Into You."
Yes. So,
here we go.
People, principle everybody understands. Hopefully, people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision.
Yes.
They buy into the leader before they buy into the organization.
Couldn't agree more.
But I realize that like most people don't realize how people buy into them.
Yeah.
And if you're at a size in which everyone can know you personally, that's different. Okay. But there are other ways to make it easy for people to buy into you. And so I want to walk people through 4 things that are needed for people to buy into them. And the 4th one is the one that I see people lose credibility the most on.
Got it.
But I think they're all important.
Great.
Okay. So ready? First one.
Yep.
This is going to sound like, well, duh. The missing link in how people buy into you. First way people buy into you, they need to like you.
Yes.
We're like, well, duh. I don't know how to describe this any other way. When I was first starting in ministry, young 20s, Tim Sanders came out with a book called Likeability. And he had this is fascinating, these different discussions. He had this likability test on it. But that was the overarching theme of the book is the more likable you are, the better off. And I think that gets a bad rap because we don't want to be people pleasers.
Yeah.
Because we understand but there's a difference between I'm a people pleaser. Now my decisions are now held hostage to your likability of me. But you also need to be likable.
Yeah.
People don't want to follow a leader they don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that matters.
Yeah, of course.
I was always fascinated. I've read, I think, almost all the biographies about Steve Jobs. And when the first one started coming out, it was amazing to me the response of people who worked with him. Because
soulless genius.
Yeah, that's how the biographies describes them.
Yes.
And they talk about that. Oh my goodness, for some reason in this moment, I can't remember the phrase they would use. Oh, reality distortion field.
Oh.
They're you get it, and he'd have these unrealistic demands and these crazy expectations.
Yeah.
And then the response of people are the portrait that you created is not who I worked with because he was my friend. And yes, he was all those things, but we liked him.
Yeah.
We wanted to be in the room with him.
Yeah, that's good.
And I just thought that was fascinating that in all the eccentric stuff that we miss, people like these people.
Yeah. Tim Sanders, you mentioned that. Should we know who that is, or is that not important?
He's a business author. Oh, that sounds bad because if Tim Sanders is watching, should we know who that is? Nope.
Okay.
Meaningless.
No, I didn't mean it like
kidding.
that. I mean, is that for you at that age to be reading Tim Sanders, was that a significant thing?
I was reading everybody.
Gotcha.
I have more time.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
The church I worked at had a $3,000 professional development budget that I learned 2 months in.
For everybody?
No one.
Or for the whole church?
For everyone on staff. And 2 months in, I realized no one else is going to use it. So I spent $3,000 a year on books that I read.
Nice.
And it was awesome.
That was a good decision. The Leading Hope podcast thanks you.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
All right. So point number 1, they need to like you.
Yes.
And I'd encourage someone who again, that's not people pleasing. Maybe read that book because it gives some good categories and helpful pieces. Cool. Point number 2, they need to trust you.
Yeah.
For people to buy into you, they need to like you. You're not a jerk, and they need to trust you. Now, we've talked about this before, just real simple. Trust is character and competency. It is integrity and ability. do not make it just one of those things. Because if someone says, I don't trust you, do you think they're a liar? Or do you think they don't know how to complete the project?
Yeah.
Because those are two very different things,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they all come together in trust.
Good.
So, second piece, they need to trust you. I just put competency attracts, character sustains. They're like, we're attracted to someone's talent and their ability, but their integrity is the thing that keeps us in it.
Yeah.
So they need to trust you. Point number 3 is they need to want to follow you.
Okay.
Now, what that means is that you're going somewhere. Like if people are going to
You're not
buy
running in place.
yeah, if people are going to buy into you, they need to want to follow you. They're not going to want to follow you if you're not likable. They're not going to want to follow you if they don't trust you.
Right.
But there actually needs to be a direction. I believe there is so much that has been said but hasn't been lived out on the need for bold leadership. The need to be able to go like, we are taking this hill.
Yeah.
Or we're going this direction.
Yep.
And that is instantly energizing. It's instantly exciting. And I don't know, if there's bold leadership, there's momentum.
Yeah.
If there's not bold leadership, there's probably not momentum.
Stagnation.
Yeah, I know that maybe oversimplifies it a little too much, but I really think it's that simple.
Yeah.
So, good?
Good.
Anything we need to break down? Because the fourth one is it's not that it's like a doozy, but it's the one that I think people miss the most.
Yeah. No, I mean, the point 3 is, it seems like an obvious point, but like, and then we'll get into more of these questions as you finish point 4
Cool.
because you haven't finished it. But I mean, at the end of the day, if they just like you and you're not like, let's keep going because I want to get to these question caps.
So this fourth point, it kind of turns the tables a little bit.
Good.
And that is, they need to know that you trust them.
Yep.
So they need to like you. They need to want to follow you. They need to trust you. They need to know that you trust them. And
Yeah.
here's the dynamic that has to be, and it's such a, honestly, at times it's a difficult balance. I believe they need to know that there's a hill that you're willing to die on. There's values. There's a hill you're willing to take, that there's a vision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
There's certain things you won't retreat from.
Right.
And there's certain things you're going to advance on no matter what. In order for people to know that you trust them, they also need to know that you hear them and will alter course and pace when necessary.
Yeah.
And I think it's that like balance of when some people hear bold leadership, they equate it with, I don't know how to say this another way. If I was smarter, I'd say it not as poor. They equate it with deaf leadership. Like, we're bold. They don't hear anyone. They're bold. That means they're not going to listen to anyone's ideas. And to go like, no, that's not like people, in order for people to buy into you, they need to know that you'll hear them and that you will adjust course as is necessary. Not for every complaint, because I don't think that's the expectation.
Oh, for the right thing.
Yeah. And to be able to walk in and like, I can think of a couple times, even here at Church for the One, that I've walked into a room and thought I had the decision and realized everyone else in the entire room thought differently than I did.
Yeah.
And like part of that trust is people know if I'm overruled, I'm not saying I'm abandoning vision or anything like that,
Yeah.
because they know those are non-negotiable for me. But like we talked about, like with the name change, everyone thought we needed one except for me in the room that we were in. So you guys are probably right.
Yeah.
Like, I assume you guys are right in this. All right, we'll go this direction. And it is that like back and forth give and take of there is a core that is unbudging, but there is also so much more there that I'm gathering feedback, adaptive leadership, all those other pieces that's what I see people miss.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And I mean, if you go back to the name change, that was a good indication of us trusting you and you trusting us. It was both and. It wasn't just one way. It's like, oh, he'll get there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
No, but that matters.
You know what I mean? And that does matter. Like, he doesn't see it now. And the same thing when you see stuff that no one else does, you also trust the same way, right? You're like, they'll get there. It may not feel good right now.
Yep.
But through the pain of this thing, they'll see the other side. And I trust that process, and I trust that they are, their character and their competencies will match to get us to this thing that we need to do.
And I don't see a lot of times where people exhibit both.
No.
And
It's
like
usually one-sided.
I can remember I was
Not usually, but a lot of times.
I was doing this like really brief, I want to say consulting, which is what I was doing, but it was just a Zoom call with a church on their vision and their future. And I can remember like I'm in this room and the pastor goes, one of the board members says on the call, high level board member, like, what was he? He was a CFO of a very large healthcare company. And he goes, I believe that our role, I believe the pastor's role is to come to us with 90% of it. And then our role is to help fill it in and bring it alive. And I was like navigating it. And I looked at that. I was like, what's your thoughts on that? And he goes, I just want to do what the people want to do. I just want to hear from them and see what they want to do to go. What's happening here is there's no bold leadership.
Yeah.
There's no core that is unbudging. You're willing to bend on absolutely everything.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
No.
The other side of it, it doesn't work. That goes, it's my way or the highway. Get on the bus or we'll run you over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is go. You may accomplish some things, but people aren't going to buy into you.
Yep. That's good. If you were to, and I'm not saying you need to or should, but if you were to reorder these points, and I'm not saying they're in that order.
Oh, that's fascinating.
What would you? I have a thought on my side. How would you reorder it?
Here's how I put them in order.
Yeah.
I put them in order of the process.
Okay.
Because trust is not first, likability is first.
Yeah,
People aren't asking the trust question until they've asked the like question.
Yeah.
And then they don't care about where you're going until they trust.
Yeah. That's what I would say. That's what I was looking at. I was just like, hey, I need to make sure that I'm not a jerk
Yeah.
to people. Like, I need to make sure that those things are in there, and then I can establish trust, both sides. So
Yep.
the points that you make, which I need them to know that I trust them, and then they need to know they can trust me. And then at the end of the day, if I'm not going anywhere, all those three don't matter.
Exactly.
But I think I have to do that first in order for the last one to matter.
What I have found, people who have been hurt by a leader or something like that, part of the recovery piece of this, like no longer PTSD trigger, stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of the things that happen is they reorder these. So like for someone who's been hurt badly by a leader, they start, I need to like you, and then I need to know that you trust me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I need the leader to be able to hear from me, and I need to hear that they're going to alter course before I ever hear where they're going. And to go, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the order in which it works. And I think that's why people who have been hurt badly have such a hard time ever trusting again, is now they want to go out of order to try to protect themselves from the pain that they've experienced.
Yep. That's good. That's probably happens more than we know too. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because people aren't generally, I don't know. I mean, a lot of times it's not their first job here.
Correct.
They may have come somewhere, done something else.
Or, well, where I actually encounter this as a lot is not at the employee side of it, just people coming to church.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's like they want me to hear, and I don't say this negatively because I can help in this, is they want me to hear their entire story and validate all the offenses that have been done to them before they want to hear where we're headed and what we're about.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I like you. Let me make sure that you trust me, and then I will consider offering my trust to you.
Yeah. I want to, we have a little bit more time here. I want to, this makes complete sense. I don't think when we
it wasn't meant to be
here, like, I get it. Like, I don't see where there's a lot, but when you say the missing link, on how people, buy into you, do you feel like this is a concept that the missing link sometimes outside of these, and this is exactly what someone outside of those particular points, that there's a example, Bobby Knight way of coaching worked.
Yeah.
He won until it didn't work.
Correct.
So the missing link was the ability not to understand this and adapt to it. Do you think there's still room for that to be part of the missing link in that discussion? Like, because I see guys learning how to do that. It's like leadership is evolving.
Yeah. Here's what I find. If I could just.
Yeah.
Yes. First, let me validate everything you just said on the leadership is evolving.
Yeah.
And my real point on the missing link is that bold vision and trust your people doesn't seem to go together.
Got it.
And it has to.
Got it.
What I also think happens is that there is no one in the world who I've ever met that success didn't change them in some way or another.
Yeah.
And people will say about like.
You say that negatively or positively? Both.
Could be both.
Got it.
But it always changes.
Okay.
In some way.
Inevitable.
Often for the worse.
Okay.
But it always changes someone.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we look at that like a Bobby Knight, who I don't know much about, just to be clear, but he just became the.
Yeah, he was the easy. I'm not pro or con. I'm just saying that in the light of popular opinion.
And I think one of the things that happens is we'll look at that and we go, well, culture changed and what you do no longer works.
Yeah.
And I don't think the thing that we account for is that they changed as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guarantee you, Bobby Knight, who threw the chair, is not the same Bobby Knight.
Correct.
When he first started. And people go, well, he was always doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing he was also less tolerant.
Right.
I'm guessing he was also less. I'm not saying he ever had a high level of patience.
Yeah.
But I don't think we factor in the way in which the leader themselves changed, and we just think that culture changes.
Yeah. And I think that's important.
Can drill into this?
Yeah.
The thing that goes with success typically is empathy for the newcomer. And I think that's the thing that really matters there.
Yeah.
Is to say, like, when you've won at a high level consistently and performed with high people, then your tolerance for development typically goes out the window. So that would be my guess in that area.
Yeah. And your bent on that would be to continue still the empathy for the newcomer. Like,
absolutely.
yeah. And that could be
and it gets hard.
Of course it does.
I don't know how to say this any other way, but like people who've been in it for a while get grouchy for a reason.
Yeah.
Because they get sick of dealing with the same problems with new people.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the only way to develop.
Yeah. And that's the way that you actually get to the plan or the goal that you had already set out for in the first place.
And so then the piece is, if success is impact, if success is like the results versus if success is the people, that's what changes that.
Yeah.
Because if you have victory, but you have no empathy for development, you can still succeed if it's bottom line cash flow that you're after.
Yeah.
But if your definition of success is about who you elevate with you, then you have to have that empathy throughout the process.
That's good. That's a whole nother.
We kind of drifted into another episode.
But that's the thing. So if you had to wrap it up and someone's like, man, I'm not sure that people have bought into me as a leader, what are you telling them?
I'd encourage them to look at one of those 4 factors. And I got enough time. Let me make it real simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
1, do people want to be around you?
Okay.
If they don't, you're probably not very likable.
Okay.
You can improve that.
Yep.
2, if they don't trust you. If you're a liar, get out. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's too hard to rebuild. But if it's competency, operating your strengths, figure out what you can get better at that's needed in your role. Want to follow you. Do you have a vision? Are you going somewhere? Do people know what that is? So I think that's really important. The 4th one is, how often do you change your mind? I don't mean you look at your potential approval rating and you back out. I mean, like, how often when an idea is given, do you reconsider your position? Because I think that's the one that people struggle at the most.
That's great. That's great. Now I want to do another podcast called A Leader's Approval Rating.
Oh, that's fun.
Like just to What's that actually mean? What does it look like? That's great. That's all we got time for today, though, for 232, the missing link in how people buy into you. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day to become a better leader. If you're new to the podcast and haven't yet subscribed, it'd mean the world to us if you did that now. Also post about it, rate and review, or both. Won't believe how that helps get the podcast in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us. We love hearing your stories, how the podcast is helping you with your life and business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online and send that to us, or DM us, or both. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count. Woo!